Hi everyone, Tom Vogel, Wrestling's Finest PC Pro Wrestling Game, continuing on with our video series. Tonight we're just going to talk about one feature of Wrestling's Finest, and I believe it's one of the most important, and up until last year it's probably one of the most underutilized features. But with what we did with version 2, which I'm going to talk about here, I think that has now changed. When Wrestling's Finest was created back in 1982, one of my early roadblocks was when facing a large wrestler, and what I'm talking about was Andre the Giant. His counters and other big wrestlers are just so incredibly high for like body slams, suplexes, pinholds, whipping the ropes, power moves, hip tosses, arm drags, things like that, that wrestlers facing them just were in a world of hurt just because of the counter aspect alone. So what I came up with was going under the impression that wrestlers, would be scouting their opponents. They wouldn't be foolish enough to try those moves. So what I came up with was the ability to trade out of 3 moves, and then you'd trade to 3 other moves. Now there were some restrictions. One, you could not trade to or from a specialty move. You could not trade specialty move to specialty move. And finally, any move you traded to, a pin attempt could not result if the move applied was from a traded move. That way, even though you could trade out of moves to something else, you were penalized by not being able to pin or at least attempt to pin your opponent. So that's kind of the theory behind it. Trading of holds, like I mentioned, was probably underused up until last year. I don't think people quite understood it. I don't think they realized the importance of it. So with our version 2 that was released May or June of 2016, Gary was able to add a feature that recommends up to 3 holds that each wrestler can trade for a match. Now, not every match are you going to get a trade hold recommendation just because the computer doesn't think it's warranted. It's actually a very complicated formula we came up with, and it's based on several aspects, but mainly what is the counter rating of a wrestler for a certain hold. That's kind of the biggie. So let's go take a look here at our trade hold recommendations for this match between Kevin Von Erich, longtime big star of the world class Von Erich family, versus King Kong Bundy, 450-pound, shaved, bald head, just mean as they come, just a big guy. Here we are at our trade move screen. You'll notice here there's no trades recommendations for King Kong Bundy, but if you look at Kevin, we have 3: body slams, suplex, and whips. Let me take you through these here. Body slams and suplexes for Kevin, the frequency he'll try each of those moves is 5.75%. King Kong Bundy's counter is 90% for both. The success rate is 0.57%. Now, counters for each wrestler are based from out of 40. So King Kong Bundy actually has a counter for body slam and suplex of 36. That's how we come up with the 90%. Most wrestlers for body slams, bigger guys of course are going to have higher ratings, but I would say most guys are in the 10, 11, 12, maybe 13 rating. Real smaller wrestlers might be an 8 or a 9. So when King Kong Bundy gets a 36, that's off the charts. If you go a little farther down to whips, about halfway down, you'll see that the frequency that Kevin will attempt to whip into the ropes is 3.79%. King Kong Bundy's counter percent is 82.5, and that means the frequency that Kevin would have with that move is only 0.66. Now, you might say, why wouldn't you trade out of, say, a pile driver that has only a 80% counter and a 0.23% frequency or success rate? It's because Kevin's only going to try that 1.15% of the time. A better example is if you come down here, hair pull. Kevin's going to try a hair pull only 0.46% of the time, but King Kong Bundy, being completely bald, has a 100% chance of countering it. Therefore, it's impossible for Kevin to put that move on. The reason you're not going to trade to that move, to the hair pull, is because the frequency is way greater on the whips into ropes, into body slams and suplexes. So that's why we don't want to go that route. Now, to trade the moves, I think I already did this during a pause there, so just to save time. You just basically go in, and you would select, like I did, body slam, and I did suplex, whip into ropes, and then you would select, like here I did speed moves, just click that, and that will be the move you trade to. Now, what Kevin has given up is stamina, -9, -10, -6, and he's trading to a -7, -5, -5, but look at the counters. 36, 36, 33 get changed to 1, 4, and 4. Now, one of the things Gary and I wrestled with, no pun intended, was why not just, for this example, why would Kevin not just trade to all speed moves? Because Bundy's counter's only a 1. Very good argument, and if you want to do that, you could trade all 3 of those moves to speed moves. Some gamers don't feel comfortable trading out of 3 holds to 1 move. That's why we gave 3 possible holds. I personally, this is just me, and there is no right or wrong on this, just the fact you're trading holds is great. I would probably trade out a body slam and suplex just to speed moves, trade both those to speed, and then I would trade whips to arm hold, maybe punch. I would go to arm hold because I know Kevin has a 1 number higher control rating for that, and I'll show you that when we get back to our game screen. But as you can see here, you know, the computer really truly does a great job of analyzing what to trade out of and what to trade to. You know, part of the trading moves is kind of the integrity of the game, and that's why you won't see, like, for example, King Kong Bundy has no recommendations. You know, you could trade out of moves to like body slam or suplexes just because they're big, powerful moves for Bundy. I'm going to click out of this. But, you know, it goes to the integrity of the game. You know, King Kong Bundy's move set is rated for how often he did certain moves. And if you deliberately trade out of moves just to give Bundy, you know, a more chance because he's better at body slams and suplexes, you know, you can go ahead and do it. The only thing I ask is that you use a little bit of common sense, because Wrestling's Finest never was and never will be a promoter's type game where you make decisions based on who you want to have win. I mean, you could do that, but that's not the purpose of Wrestling's Finest. If you say you want Kevin Von Erich to lose this match, you're hoping King Kong Bundy wins. Easy way to do that, of course, would be not to trade out of moves, but then you're taking how the game was designed, the purpose of it, you know, you're kind of pushing that aside, so the integrity of the game suffers. You know, if you're looking for a promoter game, this isn't the game for you. I don't really think there is a game out there like that, because any wrestling game, if you wanted to, you could just say, you know what, I'm just going to do everything I can for King Kong Bundy to win because I want him to win, and I want him to kind of move up the ladder of importance for my wrestling world. You know, again, not what Wrestling's Finest is, was, or ever will be. So at this point, since we've made our trades, we're going to go ahead and click Done. Okay, now we're back at our main game screen, and you know, once the match would start now, anytime one of those 3 moves that we traded out of, body slam, suplex, or whip into ropes for Kevin, anytime one of those moves comes up, it will switch over to the traded moves, which would be the speed move, arm hold, and punches. Now, what I'm going to show you here, Kevin Von Erich, he had the, I had mentioned I would probably switch to the arm hold. Here's why. Right here, King Kong Bundy's counter to both the arm hold and the punch is a 4. Kevin Von Erich is a 5 off for both. he has a control rating of arm hold 36, but for a punch he has 35. And that one number, you know, it doesn't seem like a lot, and it isn't, but it still means he will maintain control just a little bit more often via an arm hold versus a punch. And as I mentioned earlier, one of the most important, or at least I think I did, one of the most important features of Wrestling's Finest is the control rating. If a wrestler stays in control, bad things, it's hard to have bad things happen to him, and he actually cannot be pinned if he's in control. So a wrestler really truly wants to keep control as often and as much as he can in Wrestling's Finest. And in a future video, when we kind of really dig into the ratings, we'll go through that a little bit more. But for now, I showed you the trading of the holds. Final couple thoughts on that is any time during the match, and my little brother loves to do it, and it's actually a very good strategy, he will actually go in during the match, and depending on how things are going, he will possibly trade out of different holds or trade to different holds. It just, you know, sometimes maybe your game plan going in didn't work and you want to maybe shake things up, or maybe you see your opponent's really on the verge of losing, so maybe you want to trade back to holds that allow you more pin opportunities. I wouldn't suggest that going against King Kong Bundy, only because the holds you're trading out of have such huge counters. So you just want to avoid those body slams and suplexes, and in this case the whip into ropes as much as possible, just because of the very, very high counters King Kong Bundy has. When I take you through an actual match here in a real soon upcoming video, we will do trade moves, and you will be able to see how they come into play from time to time. So you know, hopefully we'll get a few of those opportunities. But I think I'm going to end it now. I hope you enjoyed this, maybe learned a little bit about the trading holds, and hopefully can tell my real passion for people using this feature, because part of the game that we have, or part of the integrity of the game and how the ratings were actually made, are based on gamers actually using the trade hold recommendations. So I hope everybody has a great rest of their day, and I look forward to joining you again real soon. Thanks again. Again, this is Tom Vogel from Wrestling's Finest PC. Good night, everyone.